Part 35. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 341. Chapter 341 What's different? Lin Yunan guessed that she and Pei Xian didn't have much actual contact. Otherwise, Li Lei will explode first before it affects his work. With the great Li Lei watching, Lin Yunan felt relieved and didn't bother to ask about her mysterious private life, so he directly went through the transfer procedures. It is still a high-level intensive care unit. It was a very quiet floor. Apart from her, there was only one female entrepreneur living there. She didn't know what kind of disease she was suffering from, and she looked very worried every day. This neighbor was not star-chasing and would not recognize who she was when he saw her. Therefore, Xiaoling rarely enjoyed a day without being disturbed, living quietly and occasionally receiving friends who came to visit her. Luoluo gave a big bunch of pink lilies, and Bai Murong gave a game console. Sister Meina and Wei Shaiyin were afraid that she would be bored in the hospital, so they sent a dozen fashion magazines. Even Rongping came to visit once and sent a fruit basket, roses, and carnations. There is no need to spend money like this. Xiaoling leaned half of her body on the hospital bed and said to Rongping with a polite smile. Rongping has a gentle demeanor. We have been together for so long, so I should come and see you. By the way, there are many reporters downstairs. If you have friends coming in and out, tell them to be careful. Xiaoling's smile deepened. Sure enough, he gave the flowers just for show. But this is good. It will help spread their popularity, especially during the period when she is recuperating and not showing up. It can maintain a considerable amount of topicality. He sat and chatted with her for a while, showing no intention of leaving. Xiaoling gradually became impatient, thinking about how to ask him to leave, and tactfully hinted that she was tired. Rongping heard the song and knew the meaning, but said, "I can't leave now. I have to stay for at least 3 hours before those tabloid reporters have topics to write about. If you are tired, just rest by yourself. I will sit next to you and read the magazine." Okay. With that said, Best Actor Rongda actually sat on the sofa nearby. Xiaoling smiled bitterly, said that the reception was not good enough, and went to take a nap. But I couldn't fall asleep. I was tossing and turning. I felt uncomfortable with the presence of an extra person in the room. She gave up on herself, simply turned over and sat up, found a game console given by Bai Murong and started playing. Rongping raised his head from the pile of magazines and looked at her, his eyes a little complicated. This girl would rather play games than chat with herself? You know, he is the actor, the male in the hearts of many girls. When has he ever been so neglected? He felt a little uncomfortable, but he quickly suppressed it. Ever since the accident in the pool, he knew that his status in her heart was not worth mentioning. The two big bosses, Pei Xian and Li Lei, rushed into the water to save her. As for her, what does he compare to others? Thinking of this, Rongping felt a little disappointed. He didn't know what was wrong with him. It seemed that the initial cooperative relationship had changed a bit now. Her smiles and smiles unknowingly affected his heart. However, he knew from the beginning that there was no possibility between them. The actor Rongda turned the magazine over and over, but he didn't read a single word. Xiaoling was having so much fun playing games that she momentarily forgot who was in the room and asked, "Is there any water? Get me a glass of water." Rongping. The girl in front of me is definitely the first one who dares to treat him as a servant. He didn't know what was wrong with him, but he actually got up to help her pour water. He also thoughtfully mixed the hot and cold water to the right temperature and handed it to her. Xiaoling took it without raising her head and took a sip. "Why didn't you put lemon?" She handed the cup back. "Remember to add half a slice of lemon. The temperature will be slightly lower and the taste will be better." Rongping was speechless again. This girl, where does this delicate problem come from? He silently took the water glass and was debating whether to look for the lemon or pour the glass of water on the girl who was concentrating on playing the game. Suddenly, he felt that his hand was empty and the glass had been taken away. He turned around and saw Lilei. Boss Lee was wearing a white coat, a medical mask and a hat today, covering his face tightly. He obviously came up here to avoid the paparazzi squatting downstairs. He stood calmly in front of Rongping. He looked at Rongping with a pair of eyes with a casual smile. He took off his mask and said, "I'll come. This child has a tricky mouth and is difficult to take care of. He becomes sour when he gets cold or hot, it even screams when it's too sweet, and unfamiliar people can't take care of it." What is an unfamiliar person? The best actor Rongda was heartbroken on the spot. Even if you are a real boyfriend, you are still bullying others too much. Ah, no, what kind of real boyfriend? Lilei, you've been chasing Yexing Ling until now, but you haven't even gotten a good name, okay? Why should you point fingers at others? What about familiarity or not? Are you very familiar with her? Over there, Xiaoling heard the sound and looked up to see Lilei. Lilei, classmate Xiaoling threw away the game console, leaned forward, and opened her hands for him to hug. Why did you come so early today? And you said bad things about me? How can I be so difficult to support? Yes, you'd better take care of yourself. Lilei smiled indulgently, leaned over and gave her a hug. Ever since the accident in the pool, he has been insecure and has to touch her body from time to time to feel at ease. At first, he took the initiative to hug her every day when he came to visit the doctor. Later, classmate Xiaoling probably liked her too, and when he came over, she would consciously ask him to hug her. The best actor Rongda can't stand it anymore. What's going on with this gluey feeling? Lilei, didn't I hear that you two haven't gotten back together yet? It's a pity that the two sweet people over there couldn't hear his inner complaints. Xiaoling smiled stupidly at Lilei, then go and make lemonade for me. Remember to choose a beautiful lemon. Died in a hurry. Xiaoling watched him leave and then had time to talk to Rongping. Well, I'm sorry, I was too focused on playing just now and didn't notice that you were the one who helped me soak the water. I shouldn't have made so many requests. Why? Is it because he is an outsider? Rongping felt uncomfortable in his heart, but on the surface, he was as gentle as ever. It doesn't matter. It's almost time. I'll take my leave now and come back to see you when I have the opportunity. He looked at her and smiled in a gentlemanly manner. Take good care of your health. Xiaoling wished he would leave quickly, smiling sweetly and waving her hands until he disappeared out the door. Lilei came in with lemonade. Half a crescent-shaped slice of lemon floats in the clear glass. The proportion and water temperature are her favorites, and even the appearance is impeccable. Xiaoling sighed again. If Lilei wasn't a boss, he could definitely become a chef. She took a sip and said, "It's great to have you here." "It's good to have a nanny here." Lilei smiled, exposing her mercilessly. Xiaoling felt guilty and said stiffly, "You and the nanny are still different." "Tell me, what's different?" the boss said arrogantly. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 342. Chapter 342 Nanny and Bodyguard. Xiaoling tilted her head and thought for a long time. It seemed that, there was no difference, except that he would also jump into the water to save people. Nanny, and bodyguard. The boss rewarded her with a chestnut. Xiaoling, a classmate, felt aggrieved. You insisted on asking. So when you answer, you can't think through it. The boss was angry. Isn't it great to have a nanny who is also your boyfriend? Oh. Oh, what? Nanny, and boyfriend. She looked at him weakly. Are you confessing to me? I confessed my love to you before with my life. Boss Lee glared at her resentfully. What about you? You're hooking up with a shady man behind my back. I didn't. Xia Xiaoling, a classmate, felt guilty and whispered, I've already transferred to another hospital. Master boss, I'm talking about Rongping. Why does she think of Pei Xian in everything? It turns out that the shadow of Pei Xian in her heart is still so deep. Li Lei could tell that Xiaoling had been avoiding that man, but despite this, her thoughts were still drawn to that man from time to time. For a moment, Li Lei's expression became a little gloomy. Xiaoling also realized that she had said the wrong thing and tried to make amends. I know you are good to me. Just being nice to you. She knew that he loved her. But, how should she repay this love? Li Lei, Xiaoling raised her head and looked at him seriously, why do you like me? I can't give you anything. I don't need anything from you, he said calmly, I'm good to you, not because I want you to repay me. So many women like you, why me? Xiaoling really doesn't understand. In terms of family background, she is not as good as Gu Lin. In terms of intelligence and talent, she is not as good as Su Tang. In terms of beauty, she is not as beautiful as a cloud of beautiful women. She is not very beautiful in the entertainment industry, so why did he fall in love with her? Because you are you, Li Lei said, my heart, he pointed to the position of his heart, will only beat when it sees you. If something happens to you, it will suffocate. Yes, Ling, I am yours in this life. No matter if you are not smart enough or not honest enough, I just like you and love you for my life, so. He held her face and looked at her seriously, promise me that you will do well. She didn't expect such an answer. She opened her mouth slightly and was speechless. The time she spent with him flashed past her eyes, and he held her when she had a fever. He took her in when she had no place to live. When she was rushing to make an announcement in the dark, he drove her to and from her. When she was hungry, he would always cook delicious food and serve it to her immediately. Not to mention, he tolerated all her willfulness and unreasonableness. He rescued her alone when she was kidnapped several times and encountered accidents. If there is true love in this world, it must be him. Don't be too nice to me. She murmured, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? He asked softly. I'm afraid that this kind of happiness is too illusory, and there will be nothing after waking up from the dream. It was like that in her previous life. She thought that the umbrella that could protect her from wind and rain turned against her without warning. Li Lei approached her, stretched out his hand and hugged her into his arms. Fool, he said softly, I am the one who should be afraid. God sent you to me. I feel so lucky, but I am also afraid that one day you will suddenly leave me and go to someone else. No, she leaned into his warm embrace and closed her eyes slightly. The scene in the water emerged again. She looked at Pei Xian sadly and desperately. Pei Xian opened her hand bit by bit, turned around and swam away. I won't leave you, and I won't go with anyone else. Xiaoling listened to his accelerated heartbeat, stretched out her hand, and gently covered it through her clothes. Li Lei, where else can I go besides you? You are the only one left in my life. The last sentence was as soft as a sigh. Li Lei lifted her chin, lowered his head, and kissed her. Different from any previous kiss, this time he was solemn and gentle, like a signing ceremony, declaring his possession of her. Unconsciously, she began to respond to him with warmth and intimacy. We will never leave each other in this life, they will be each other's only ones. Some families are happy and some are sad. Here, Xiaoling and Li Lei were affectionate, while over there, Xiaoyu fell into depression. Xiaoling was in danger because of her own hands and feet. The night before, she took advantage of others' unpreparedness and changed the timing settings of the water gate, allowing the gate to open when it shouldn't have been opened at that time, dragging Xiaoling into the rapids below the waterfall. She wants Xiaoling to die. With a drop of 20 meters, it is already easy to be injured if you fall down. Add to this the critical force of the water rushing out of the sluice, the natural river channel in the rapids, the reefs, Whirlpools and river-bottom aquatic plants, the dangers involved, it is different from the ordinary swimming pool. Even many people who swim well in the swimming pool will only die when encountering such waves. If that dies, her brother Zi Hung will no longer look at others. Isn't it just murdering a person? It's not that difficult. Xiaoyu laid the trap with ease, and just as she expected, the water gate suddenly opened while Xiaoling was filming, and in just a moment, the people in the water were swept away. However, before Xiaoyu's lips could smile, Pei Ziyan had already jumped down. Xiaoyu was stunned. Jealousy, unwillingness, anger, countless emotions surged up, making her almost unable to keep the hypocritical expression on her face. She prayed silently that brother Zi Hung would not rescue that bitch. Maybe the sky heard her voice, and her brother Zi Hung was indeed washed ashore alone. Unfortunately, that named Ye Xingling was rescued by another man. From that day on, brother Zi Hung became more taciturn than usual, often staring at the broken Patek Philippe in a daze for a long time. Xiaoyu recognized that watch. It was custom made for him by his sister before she was alive. In the past 2 years, brother Zi Hung has cherished it more than his own life. Now, he must be regretting breaking this watch because of saving Ye Xingling, right? In the chairman's office, Xiaoyu, holding a cup of tea, approached Pei Ziyan and glanced at the broken watch in his hand. "It's all that Ye Xingling's fault," she said softly. "If it weren't for her, my sister's relics wouldn't be broken." She fully expected that Pei Ziyan would agree, but even if it didn't work, she still felt a little more resentment towards Ye Xingling in her heart. Unexpectedly, the man leaning behind the spacious desk just glanced at her silently, his eyes full of silent pressure and pressure. Warn. Xiaoyu did not dare to speak. In the most obedient manner, she placed the biluakun he loved to drink on the desk. When he turned to leave, he deliberately walked slowly, hoping that he could stay or say something. But he was as silent as an abyss. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 343. Chapter 343 The Invitation from the Best Actor Rongda. Xiaoling rested in the hospital for a while. Her health gradually improved and she resumed filming. The subsequent shooting went smoothly and there was no danger. She guessed that maybe it was because the aftermath of the last Floodgate incident was not over yet, and Lilei was still working tirelessly to find out the truth. If that incident was a pure accident, it would be fine. If not, the perpetrator might not dare to do so in the short term. Take action again to avoid arousing suspicion. Xiaoling actually suspected that it was Xiaoyu, but she had no evidence. While recording the program, Xiaoyu would greet her a few words when he saw her, with a soft smile on his face, and asked her concernedly how she was doing. People who didn't know would have thought how deep their friendship was. Xiaoling just wanted to finish recording this program and get rid of Xiaoyu's disgusting hypocritical face. She was energetic and performed perfectly in every scene. Her excellent camera sense aroused the admiration of many people. Ye Xingling is very good. During the lunch break, Jimmy handed the lunch box to Rongping and looked at the girl who was chatting and laughing with Luo over there. "Brother Rong, do you want to invite her to make a guest appearance in your next scene? The filming of Bizarre Adventure is about to end, and the buzz about speed dating in the streets will lessen." If it is announced at this time that Ye Xingling will participate in Rongping's drama, then, from the filming period to the hot release period, another topic that has been going on for more than a year. During this period of time, the two people's speed dating team has gained a lot of topics, which has greatly improved the popularity of both parties. Jimmy is keen for the hype to continue. Rongping opened the lunchbox gracefully and followed Jimmy's gaze to look at the girl not far away. In fact, Her acting skills are not very good. The reason why she is so dazzling in front of the camera is entirely due to her true character. In other words, although she is excellent, her acting career is too narrow, and she may not be able to go very far on this acting path. However, he nodded. What he is about to take on is a summer primetime blockbuster. As a leading actor who is responsible for the box office, it is not difficult for him to squeeze in a small supporting role that is not very important. Rongping thought about it carefully and found that there was a role in that drama that really suited her. Let her take the role of the fairy princess. Jimmy also knows that this character doesn't have many roles and doesn't have much room to display his acting skills. He is a typical flower vase. The so-called vases refer to those female characters who are extremely beautiful but do not require much skill. He was a little embarrassed. There are many people vying for this role, including Ninger from Xinjia Entertainment, Zhou Ziwei from Tianma Media, and Li Bier and Shui Yunro. Ye Xingling's appearance is not an advantage vase, mainly she is beautiful, regardless of her acting skills. Being able to get a role as a supporting actress in a top blockbuster film is also everyone's recognition of the actress's appearance. What's more, if Rongping plays the role, it will have a guaranteed box office. This is a good opportunity to increase his net worth and popularity. Rongping also knew that Ye Xingling's appearance could only be considered delicate. He said, "If you ask her to audition, you won't disappoint the crew. That girl is a natural spotlight, always so lively and vivid in front of the camera. Even if her appearance is not beautiful enough, as long as she stands there, everyone's eyes will follow her unconsciously. In other words, she is born to hold the entire audience. Her charm value far exceeds the appearance value of other actresses." Jimmy has been following the show team during this period. At this moment, he roughly understands why Rongping is so confident. Thinking about it, it is just a small supporting role. With Ye Xingling's current status, she has also reached the standard. Although she is slightly inferior in appearance, her charm in front of the camera is unmatched by many actresses. It is also highly recommended by Rongping, the great movie king. He nodded, "Okay, I'll go find Ye Xingling right now." "That's right," Rongping stopped him, "tell her, I will teach her how to act. This is better than getting a female supporting role in a blockbuster." A more tempting suggestion is that acting is the bread and butter of movie stars. Usually it is too late to hide it, so how can you easily give others the experience you have accumulated over the years? One-on-one step-by-step guidance from the great movie star. How many people dream of it but cannot get it? Brother Rong, even Jimmy was a little frightened. Rongping smiled slightly, "It doesn't matter, she is an actress. Although there is competition between female stars and male stars, it is far less fierce than the fierce competition between the same sex." He taught her acting skills, which is relatively safe. Moreover, judging from Ye Xingling's current situation, she seems to only be able to sing and perform in her own way, and her grasp of real acting skills is approximately zero. This is like a doctoral tutor giving guidance to primary school students. Is he still worried that he will not be surpassed by primary school students? Hearing what he said, Jimmy felt slightly relieved and went to find someone. When Xiaoling heard about this, she didn't have any objections. "However, I can't make the decision," she smiled. "You have to ask Lin Yunan about this. He has the final say on what to accept and what not to accept." She knew that she has a few pounds, and she is very talented in singing, but it does not mean that she is equally talented in other things. At least, her acting skills are indeed inferior to others. Even if she accepts movies, variety shows, endorsements, etc., they are all paving the way for her to ascend to the throne of the queen of the music industry. Lin Yunan is an expert in how to pave this road so that it will not be paved crookedly. Jimmy looked at her differently. Other actresses were too busy to agree to such a good opportunity. She was not blinded by these random smallpox, and stuck to her true heart and principles. "That's fine," Jimmy smiled politely and said to her, I will discuss it with Lin Yunan. Miss Ye, I look forward to our next cooperation. Xiaoling also smiled and nodded. As expected, Lin Yunan came to see her that night. At that time, she was drinking tea in the rented apartment. In order to prevent paparazzi, she and Luoluo had already made the spacious terrace fully enclosed. Through the one-way glass on the three walls and the ceiling, one could look up and see the vast starry sky from the lounge chair comfortably. The camera lens outside could not capture it. Because it is very safe, Li Lei is also there. Today, he is wearing a light-colored sportswear, which vaguely outlines his excellent figure and well-proportioned and tight muscles. A bullet-riddled soldier badge hangs around his neck, and his handsome features seem to shine under the starlight. What a very eye-catching person. Xiaoling admired the man while letting him pour her tea diligently. She felt that she had become more and more arrogant and licentious recently. Ever since Li Lei learned how to hide from the paparazzi, he wanted to come to her every day, serve her tea and water, and serve her so comfortably that she could not even be the first to slice an orange. All that comes to mind is him. It's not good to go on like this, it's not good. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 344. Chapter 344 Sugar-Coated Bullets. Xia Xiaoling warned herself in her heart not to be corrupted by sugar-coated bullets. Unexpectedly, the sugar-coated cannonball classmate over there was not aware of it yet. He finished making tea and without saying a word, he leaned over to hold her in his arms and carefully fed her to drink. Does it taste good? His voice was very gentle. I added some mint, chamomile, and honey. You injured your lungs by drowning a few days ago, so you need to moisten it well. Half of Xia Xiaoling's body is numb. Forget it, sugar-coated bullets are sugar-coated bullets. If you have wine now, you will be drunk now. Don't wait until there are no flowers. She was humming nonsense verses in her mind, and restlessly scratched at a certain boss with her two paws soaked in sugar water. The boss did not dislike her at all, and fed her some homemade mint and chamomile tea. Then he slowly pulled her dirty little paws, dipped a wet towel in warm water, and scrubbed her little by little. I told you not to open the honey jar, he muttered as he wiped it away. It's so sticky that I don't even know how to feel. I'm happy to. Xia Xiaoling turned over in his arms and consciously handed him her other paw. The water temperature is very suitable, and the boss's movements are very gentle. She is like a cat whose fur has been smoothed, half squinting her eyes comfortably, enjoying the service from her slave. This is what Lin Yunan saw when he came in. The little kitten named Xiaoling was just about to turn out of her belly and be tickled. With a lazy and arrogant look on her face, she commanded the boss in a sleepy manner, go a little over there, a little further over there, yes, it's a little sticky here. Please scratch behind your ears, my hands are wet, please try harder. Classmate Lin was in a mess in the wind. He has long seen the image of Big Boss Li as a filial and warm man in front of Xiaoling, but what he saw before him still set a new limit for him. Li Lei, aren't you the Night Emperor of the city? Aren't there rumors in the world that you are cold, cruel, and violent? What's the matter with you looking so servile now? Can you have some backbone? Can you earn some face for us men? Can you not be so flattering to your wife, oh no, girlfriend, oh no, your prospective girlfriend who has no name and no status? Lin Yunan felt as if 10,000 grass and mud horses were galloping past merrily. On the other hand, Luo, who led him in, was not surprised. Brother Lin, do you want me to make tea for you again? Xiaoling's taste is too sweet, and many people can't get used to her tea. Lin Yunan silently looked at the table next to the recliner, where half a basin of water, half a jar of honey, and half a pot of tea were spilled everywhere. It's terrible. Give me a glass of boiled water, he said unbearably. The hospitable Luoluo responded and went. The pair on the terrace just discovered his presence. Lilei was not very happy. "Why are you here? You can come, why can't I come?" Lin Yunan said angrily. He is Xiaoling's manager, so he has a status at least. What does the half-hearted boyfriend opposite him mean? Thinking of this, he calmly sat down on the wicker chair in front of the two of them, acting as the extra-large light bulb. "I have something to ask Xiaoling." Xiaoling was fed a full dinner, midnight snacks, and fruit tea by her boss. She was feeling sleepy. After hearing this, she had to sit up unsteadily and asked in confusion, "What's the matter?" "Jimmy is looking for you during the day. Lin Yunan is single and doesn't want to watch them show off their affection here. He just wants a quick resolution. I've learned about the movie they invited you to shoot, from screenwriter to producer to from the director to the leading actors, they are all well-known figures, with a luxurious cast. Although your role is not much, your appearance is very beautiful. Aren't there some trolls out there who are slandering you for not being pretty enough?" "Who said Xiaoling is not beautiful enough?" the boss interrupted, with an unhappy look on his face. "You can honestly say that she is as good-looking as Xiaoyu. She is much prettier than Xiaoyu." Lin Yunan was silent. There was nothing we could talk about. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Xiaoling was very happy. She blinked and asked the boss, "Really?" "It's absolutely true, it touches my conscience," Lord Boss vowed. Lin Yunan couldn't stand it any longer. He coughed heavily and brought the topic back on track. "Not everyone is as unique as you, Lilei. In short, in order to shut up those trolls and anti-fans, I starred in a movie like this role. It's very meaningful to prove to them that you can make a living with your face." Oh, Xiaoling nodded. This time the filming of Bizarre Adventure was very successful. She successfully stole the spotlight among the three actresses, shining on the screen. She had a sense of presence at all times, with full charm and popularity. However, there were also some discordant voices saying that her facial features were not as beautiful as Xiaoyu's and that she had no appearance. Of course, many of these sailors are Xiaoyu fans. But Lin Yunan wants to suppress this public opinion. "Have you promised Jimmy?" Xiaoling asked. "Yes," Lin Yunan said, "it's just a vase-type supporting role. It doesn't even require a formal audition. I'll take you to have tea with the assistant director in charge of casting, and that's it. The real game of this role is behind the scenes. Many female stars are watching to see who has a strong backstage and who has the most say." Xiaoling nodded, "Just take it. This kind of small role doesn't take up too much time, it won't affect the music work she puts a lot of energy into, and it can also increase her popularity, so why not?" Lilei spoke up, "Why did Jimmy invite Xiaoling to film this?" Lin Yunan smiled so hard that he deserved to be beaten. "Wrong ping." Lilei immediately understood that he was planning to continue the conversation with Rong Ping. "No, I can't accept this." Lilei was unhappy and turned to Xiaoling. "Xiaoling, whatever role you need, I will invest for you and tailor-make a movie." What does Rong Ping's supporting role mean? The grass mud horse in Lin Yunan's heart began to gallop happily again. This person only knows how to throw money at him. Is he vulgar? The impatient boss looked at Xiaoling expectantly, expecting her to say no. Xiaoling's IQ is not very high to begin with. She just had a full meal and couldn't think straight. She really forgot about the scandal between her and Rong Ping. Counting the time, if she takes this role, the scandal will continue for more than a year, and then she and Lilei. She glanced at Lilei. Boss's little eyes were extremely aggrieved. "I don't want to live a life of hiding here and there all the time. Think about it, he has been working hard for this period of time. He always matched her schedule, ate and slept in the open, and often met in the car. He pretended to be a driver, or a doctor when he was in the hospital, and when he came to the apartment, he pretended to check the water meter and deliver food, or to visit the neighbor upstairs." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 345. Chapter 345 To Refuse or Not to Refuse. Although, Lilei always said that changing clothes is fun. But she knew that these words just didn't want to make her feel guilty or worried. Thinking of this, Xiaoling raised her head and said to Lin Yunan, "Thank them for their kindness, please turn it down." Lin Yunan just wanted to rush forward and strangle this couple to death. What does it mean for a girl to be extroverted? What does it mean to be heterosexual and inhumane? What does it mean to forget your best friend when you have a man? The last one doesn't count. In short, Lin Yunan was very angry and irritable. Do you know what a great opportunity this is? You and actor Rong will remain in the spotlight for a year. During this year, your music album will also be released and you can also hold concerts. Invite Rong Ping to be a guest. When you announce your peaceful breakup to the outside world in more than a year, you will be at least 4 or 5 levels higher than Xia Yu and Luo Luo. Far behind. Brother Lin, your Luo Luo appeared behind him silently. Lin Yunan. Xiaoling. Lilei. Hello, Lin Yunan, is it really okay for you to say bad things about people in front of them like this? Lin Yunan is worthy of being a bar thug. His expression did not change at all. He calmly took the teacup and said to Luo Luo, "Thank you." Luo Luo looked at him seriously and said, "I will not be left behind by Xiaoling." "Yes, you have to work hard and try to catch up with Xiaoling," Lin Yunan said seriously. "Well, I'll do my best." Luo Luo raised his fist and waved, "Xiaoling, I won't lose to you." Then, he picked up the empty cups on the table, turned around and walked away. "This is Luo Luo." Xiaoling sighed softly, "If it were anyone else, they would probably poison you." "Don't change the subject." Lin Yunan cleared his throat and continued, "Anyway, this opportunity is very good. Lilei, if you really love Xiaoling, don't hinder her career. Stop talking, I won't take pictures." Xiaoling didn't like others talking about Lilei like this. Although Lilei seemed to have a good temper, he wasn't someone who was yelled at or scolded. He has done so many things for her, but now, she just made a small sacrifice, so what does it mean? "Lin Yunan," she said, "the scandal with Rong Ping has been going on for a long time. I have no feelings for him, and I can't even be a normal friend. You all know this. I don't want this boring relationship to continue. And," she glanced at Lilei and smiled, "Lilei and I plan to get back together." Compound. Lilei did not expect that she would say such words, and his eyes lit up slightly. Lin Yunan's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. Getting back together at this time? Not a good idea. There is no time to choose when you like someone. Xiaoling grabbed Lilei's hand. Looking at her determined look, Lin Yunan knew that the situation was decided. His current mood is simply crazy. If he had known earlier, he would have found a time to talk to Xiaoling when Lilei was not around, and directly tricked her into meeting the film crew to settle the matter. However, it was too late to say anything now. He stood up and said, "Just this once. Yes, Ling, next time if you refuse work because of feelings again, I will fire you." After saying that, he left without looking back. Looking at his back walking away, Lilei muttered in a low voice, "Why are you dragging me? There are so many people who are willing to be my Xiaoling's agent. Xiaoling, if he dares to fire you, you can follow me back to Tianyi." Xiaoling is speechless. "Boss, are you just making this wishful thinking?" The next few days were uneventful. The Bizarre Adventure program was successfully completed and the final episode was aired, setting unprecedented ratings. In the official speed dating combination voting, Xiaoling Rongping topped the list with a far-leading number of votes. The second place was Xiaoling Zheng Chenhao, and the third place was Luo Luo Bai Murong. As for Xiaoyu, being left far behind. Xiaoyu fans were unwilling to give in and cried and shouted that there was something shady about the show. However, Xiaoling's performance is really eye-catching, and the speed matching of the top three is really excellent. As for Xia Yu's performance, compared with the other two actresses, she was no match for the three men in the game. She had no spark at all, so it was natural that she would end up at the bottom. Therefore, the vast majority of the audience did not believe in the shady theory. Instead, they sympathized with Xiaoling and others who were innocently hacked. Many people stood up to defend it, and the public opinion was one-sided. Xia Yu was so angry that she cursed Xiaoling over and over again in her heart, but was unable to do anything. On Xiaoling's side, although the show has ended, the topic is still hot. She has to meet with Rongping every now and then, send a few street photos, and then gradually fade away when the time is right. That day, Rongping asked her to be in a coffee shop. "Congratulations, not yet," he said, "for getting the role of the fairy princess in my movie. I'm looking forward to the next collaboration." Xiaoling was stunned by what he said. "Elf princess? Ah, didn't I refuse?" As soon as the words came out, she felt a little rude. "I didn't mean that." Rongping just smiled and stopped her from continuing to explain. "So you don't know yet? Lilei came to talk to me. In a few days, I will let the media know that we are just friends. In that movie, you only need to use the title of invited to friends, just act according to your identity." "No way, Rongping is so easy to talk to?" Xiaoling looked at him puzzled. "What good will this do to you?" "Just think of it as one good deed every day." Rongping smiled and picked up the cup to drink coffee. The mist of smoke concealed the look in his eyes. In fact, he didn't understand why he was so kind to the girl in front of him. It's better to use the identity of a friend, to prevent him from getting deeper and deeper and unable to extricate himself. Xiaoling said, "Thank you. If you want to thank me, go and thank Lilei." Rongping is a smart man. He knows that this is a woman he can't get, so he might as well be a favor and pave the way for him to retain personal connections. "Lilei is reluctant to let you give up this role. It's a good announcement to bribe me and ask me to recommend you to the crew as a friend. Actually, this role is an open audition. Even if Lilei bypasses Rongping and goes directly to greet the crew, there is nothing wrong with it." But Lilei went to find Rongping. Because, this role was first introduced to her by Rongping. Lilei did this to prevent her from offending others. Rongping sighed in his heart at Boss Li's good intentions for the girl in front of him, and took another sip of coffee. "So, don't feel bad, I won't lose anything in this exchange." Xiaoling relaxed her eyebrows. But she felt that she owed Lilei in her heart. She left Tianyi in order to be independent. Now, what does it mean to rely on him for secret help? Rongping is such a veteran. After spending time with her these days, he roughly knows her temperament. At this moment, he can still tell what she is thinking. Speaking of which, if it weren't for him, our scandal plan wouldn't have happened so quickly. In the end, I will still recommend you for this role. This doesn't mean you rely on him to climb up, so don't think too much about it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 346. Chapter 346. The Man in White. But, Xiaoling wanted to say something else. "Since you have feelings for him, why are you so separate?" Rongping smiled. "How many years have I made you? I appreciate you calling me brother, so I will say a few words. Xiaoling, you are too competitive and think about everything. You can solve it yourself. But when two people are together, two destinies become one." He made a gesture of folding his hands. "You have to get used to his influence on your life. You must know that there will be no fish if the water is clear. We can't stay together forever if we are clean. His words left Xiaoling speechless for a long time. She had never thought about this problem before and only hoped to return to the top of the entertainment industry on her own. In her last life, she relied too much on men, which was why she ended up in pieces. But in this life, will she go too far? Recalling the sad look in Li Lei's eyes when she said she wanted to move and leave Tianyi. Perhaps she should give him more space? She looked down at the coffee cup in her hand. The silky and fragrant liquid rippled gently in the white porcelain, just like her disordered mood. "I'm afraid," she said, "I'm afraid that if I get too used to his existence, if we break up one day, the world will fall apart." Rongping smiled again. "Maybe it's just because your love for him hasn't reached the point where you have no regrets and no regrets. Xiaoling, you are still so young, you can't afford to be hurt, and you can devote yourself to love with all your heart." "Young? Can you afford it?" Xiaoling smiled bitterly. If Rongping knew that she was reborn and her 2 lifetimes combined were not much younger than him, how would he feel? However, what he said makes sense. So what if the world falls apart? Li Lei risked his life for her and jumped into the rapids to save her. Isn't such a man worthy of her investing everything in her love? "Brother Rong, thank you," she raised her head and said sincerely. This conversation made her have a great change in her view of Rongping. She originally thought that he was just a selfish and calculating man, but she did not expect to have such wisdom. Rongping said "You're welcome," and the two said goodbye in a friendly manner. Xiaoling had become accustomed to the life of a star many years ago. She put on a long knitted fringed scarf, a hood, and sunglasses, and walked out of the cafe fully equipped. I opened the door and found it was snowing outside. This year's first snow came so early, making people caught off guard and unprepared. She stood in the corridor with a wooden floor and wrought iron handrails, looking up at the fine crystal snowflakes swirling down gently, moistening her cheeks and hair. She looked at those white elves with some lust, thinking to herself, "I wonder what Li Lei is doing? I need to call him later to tell him that it's snowing and it's beautiful." While thinking this, I didn't pay attention to the road and bumped into a man. Xiaoling was hit so hard that the tip of her nose hurt. When she looked up, she realized that the man was tall and thin. He was wearing a long white windbreaker, a white scarf, and white gloves. Even the long-handled umbrella in his hand was plain white. The color, standing erect in the snow, seems to be integrated with the world. Xiaoling was startled by his silent appearance. "I'm sorry," she apologized for her recklessness. Her voice is clear and sweet, sounding like the sound of nature in the silent snow, making people's hearts sway. The man opposite spoke. The young phoenix cries for the first time. "What?" Xiaoling looked at him blankly. Only then could he clearly see the man's facial features, a straight nose, thin lips, and extremely detailed eyebrows, as if they were carved by famous craftsmen with great effort. Vaguely, a little familiar. She couldn't remember where she had seen him. "Hello, my name is Xiaomoyan," the man introduced himself. Xiaomoyan. She desperately searched for this name in her memory bank, but she couldn't remember that she knew this person. She couldn't help but wonder, "Who are you? We don't know each other, right?" After being a star for so long, pretending to meet by chance, yes, it's a pity. There is not a row but there is a truck. He rushes in front of her and introduces himself. This is not new. However, maybe because of this man's calm temperament, or maybe because of something else, Xiaoling felt as if she had an innate affinity for him, and she never felt like he was like those fans or paparazzi. The man slightly raised the corners of his lips, showing a faint smile. "I originally wanted to go to your house, but I have to leave the city soon, so I can only come here to block you," he said. "Can I borrow a moment to talk?" Like Rongping, he has a gentle and elegant temperament, but the clouds are lighter and the wind is lighter, just like the scattered snowflakes on the corridor. They seem gentle, but they have a cold power that cannot be underestimated. Xiaoling became even more confused. have you recognized the wrong person? Do you know who I am? She had not taken off the sunglasses on her face, so it shouldn't be that easy to identify. The man's voice was light and elegant. I know who you are, Yesin Ling. Or, I should call you another name, Xiaoling. Xiaoling was truly frightened now. You, she stammered, don't talk nonsense. How could I be Xiaoling? That Xiaoling is dead. Please give me a break, I'm in a hurry, so I'll leave first. As she spoke, she was about to rush out while avoiding the man. No matter who he is, the person who can see through her secret at a glance is too scary. She just wants to bury the unbearable past in her past life and never want to mention it again. The reincarnation of two lives. How did the man in front of me know such a shocking secret? Xiaoling's face turned pale with fright, and she staggered and was about to rush out. The man grabbed her and said in a clear and elegant voice, it's snowy and the road is slippery. Don't rush onto the road like this. You need to take care of it, she glared at him fiercely. I'm your brother, he said calmly. Ah. Classmate Xiaoling was stunned again. She felt like she was struck by lightning. What did this man say? He is her brother. He looked very young, only in his 20s. Xiaoling wanted to ask him which life brother he was. In this life, the Ye family did not have any brothers, but in the previous life, if she had not died, she would have been 30 this year. This so-called brother, isn't he at the right age? But. Her thoughts were racing, and she looked at that delicate and elegant face, and suddenly found out why she felt that he looked familiar. His appearance really resembled her in the previous life. Xia Xiaoling's whole body was messy in the wind. Xia Moyan protected her and stood sideways in the corridor to avoid bumping into her with the crowds on the street. Are you sure you want to continue standing here chatting with me? Xiaoling, he pronounced the last two words very familiarly, as if he had known her for thousands of years. Xiaoling was feeling dizzy. She didn't know how she followed Xia Moyan to the tea room and sat in a private room with excellent soundproofing. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 347. Chapter 347. Brother and sister recognize each other. The box was very quiet. The man took off his white scarf and white gloves, and took off his white windbreaker. Xiaoling then realized that his entire body was pale, as bloodless as the snowflakes outside the window. How should I put it, he didn't look like a living person. Strangely, this thought did not frighten her, she just stared at him curiously. Are you really my brother? She asked. Xia Moyan lowered her eyebrows to make tea, her posture elegant. After a moment, he pushed one of the Celadone teacups in front of Xiaoling. If you don't believe it, I can go and test DNA with Xia Yu. I think she will be happy to recognize me as her brother. Xiaoling remembered that when she and Xia Yu were adopted by the orphanage together, the orphanage took them for a DNA test, and it was found that they were indeed blood-related sisters. If he is really Xia Yu's brother, then he must also be hers. However, Xiaoling became even more curious. What is your identity, brother? If you were of a low status, oh no, if you were just an ordinary person, even an ordinary middle-class person, I'm afraid you would refuse to recognize me. Unless the elegant and pale man in front of him has a great background. Xia Moyan slightly raised her lips again, showing her second smile since they met. If anyone who knows him is here, they will definitely be shocked. He is usually famous for being calm and expressionless, and everyone has long forgotten that he can also laugh. It's a pity that Xiaoling didn't know, so she just thought it was normal and asked again. They all call me Master, Xia Mo said in a calm tone. What is the National Preceptor? Is he very powerful? Xiaoling asked innocently. She originally thought that this brother would be some kind of big boss, or a gangster like Li Lei, or a prostitute, but now this identity is really beyond her imagination. Many street fortune tellers came to mind in her mind. Forgive her, her understanding of the national master, the heavenly master, etc. only stayed at this superficial level. Awesome, Xiaomoyan thought for a while, everyone respects me and begs me, does that count as being very awesome? Not only is it very powerful, it is simply invincible and powerful, okay. Classmate Xia Xiaoling felt as if she had recognized a very awesome relative, and her eyes were about to shine. Then, who is more powerful between you and Li Lei? Xiaomoyan wanted to laugh again. She didn't know whether to look at this long-lost sister with fondness or pity. Li Lei? He's not even a number. The entire Li family will be in front of me, and our Xia family bow your head, even the old man in his family must bow his head in front of you, be respectful and don't dare to show off. Is that a lie? The last time she went to the Li family, she was disliked so much that the old man of the Li family didn't bow to her. He was lucky if he didn't kill her. In the end, she was thrown out in despair. Xiaomoyan looked at her expression and knew what she was thinking, and felt a little pity in her heart. Because she is a phoenix and has been abandoned since birth, so she suffers so much. If she grew up with her father and brother, as long as she gave her name as the Xia family's daughter, which force wouldn't fight to marry her? He looked at her with a somewhat melancholy expression and said, "You have suffered a lot over the years." Xiaoling was silent for a moment. In fact, since she was very young in her last life, she has thought about what her family is like. Why abandon yourself? Is it because you don't like it, or is there any unavoidable reason? During that time in the orphanage, whenever Xiaoyu got sick, she would hate those family members she had never met before. Even if they abandoned her, Xiaoling, why would she not let go of a sick and weak girl like Xiaoyu? Xiaoyu, you know, it's hard to live without her family. It was not until many years after he was adopted by Pei Xian that this resentment was gradually relieved. But I don't miss him very much. After she became famous, she was very annoyed by the many people who were crazy about poverty and wanted to be famous, pretending to be her family members. Pei Xian offered to find her family for her. But she refused. What's the use of finding someone who has abandoned her? Hence, the matter was settled. After her rebirth, her heartbeat had already calmed down. She neither felt the resentment of her enemies nor the excitement and joy of seeing her relatives. She just looked at Xiaomoyan calmly and asked with a little curiosity, "Okay, even if you are my brother, why did the family abandon me in the first place?" Xiaomoyan told her about Huangming's fate. "You are saying that a person with Huangming's fate will be punished if he is alone or widowed?" Xiaoling shook her head, unable to believe that this was true. Xiaomoyan said, "This is Wang's destiny, don't question it. Think about your nirvana and rebirth. These are all true. Even if you don't want to accept it, the fact still exists. You are the one who violated the destiny and was punished by being alone and widowed." Xiaoling unconsciously clenched the teacup in her hand, unwilling to accept this. "I am living well, how could?" Suddenly, as if thinking of something, she raised her head and asked Xiaomoyan, "In the previous life, Xiaoyu was suffering from a serious illness, heart disease, is it because of me?" "That's not true," Xiaomoyan said, "she is congenital and has nothing to do with you." In fact, although Xiaoyu's illness had nothing to do with Xiaoling, her abandonment had something to do with her. At that time, as soon as their father figured out that Xiaoling was a phoenix, he ordered her to be abandoned as soon as possible. But there was a tribesman who didn't know the truth or the origin of this little baby girl. Seeing her cute appearance, he thought that she could give his son a child bride, so he picked her up. "You are a phoenix, born to match the sycamore tree. How can an idle chicken and wild dog match you?" Xiaomoyan mentioned that past incident and said lightly, "Not long after you were adopted by that family's son was born, something happened. My legs were broken by rocks rolling down the mountain, and I was paraplegic. Why do you look like this?" Don't feel bad, they gave you the thinnest rice porridge and the dirtiest clothes. The shabbiest clothes can make a good girl look sallow and skinny. Xiaoling didn't even know that she was so miserable as a child. It's no wonder that when Pei Xian was adopted, her family doctor told her during her first comprehensive examination that her health was not good, and it was probably due to malnutrition since she was a child. After she was in her teens, there was no way to replenish her health. She thought the family doctor was talking about the food in the orphanage, but it turned out that she had been hungry earlier. Xia Moyan continued, the wife of that family didn't like you. She beat and scolded you frequently, pinched you until you were bruised, and called you a loser and a broom star. Many times I couldn't stand it and wanted to you brought him back, but his father said that although you are suffering outside, you still have a chance of survival. If you are raised by your close relatives, everyone will fight against each other and the whole family will die. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 348. Chapter 348 Bloodline of the Family. It's so terrible. Xiaoling bit her lip unconsciously and listened to him quietly. Xia Moyan said, when you were 2 or 3 years old, the wife of that family became pregnant again. Unexpectedly, she gave birth to a baby girl with severe congenital heart disease. As a result, your reputation as a star was lost. She was found dead, and the baby girl Xiaoyu, who looked like she couldn't be fed, was abandoned at the door of the orphanage. Having said this, he took a slow sip of tea and looked at her calmly. Xiaoling, you have always regarded Xiaoyu as your sister over the years. In fact, you are not. You are the most noble bloodline of the Xia family, and I am Xia Moyan is the biological sister of the same father and mother, and she is just a sideline with a weak blood relationship. Xiaoyu doesn't know yet, Xiaoling asked. I don't know, Xia Mo said calmly, the person I'm looking for is you, what does it have to do with her? Why are you looking for me? Xiaoling was puzzled. Brother, I should call you brother, right? Didn't you say that I am a widower and can't be with my family? Why did you come to meet me again? Xia Moyan said, because now you have been reborn as a human being in 2 lifetimes. Every time the phoenix achieves nirvana, the punishments on its body become lighter. Although you have been in many disasters in this life, it is better than the mortal dilemma in your previous life. It's been a long time since I met you now and had a cup of tea with you, it's okay. I see. She fell silent again, trying to digest the matter. The sudden recognition of her relatives brought about the sudden solution to the mystery of her life experience. Her life experience was so bizarre and unbelievable that until now, she felt as if she was in a trance and in a dream. She looked at the man in front of her. His pale but elegant face was vaguely similar to that of her previous life. He has a calm temperament that makes people believe everything he says without knowing it. Whether it was a phoenix's fate or a widower's punishment, she couldn't help but not believe it. After all, she was a person who had experienced rebirth. If Xia Moyan hadn't appeared, how could she explain this strange situation that happened to her? Xia Moyan did not disturb her and drank tea calmly, waiting for her to accept the reality. After a long time, Xiaoling raised her head. So what if you know this, she said, it's all in the past, and it will only increase the trouble. She had long since not wanted to get to the bottom of her past, and just wanted to live her life peacefully. Now she has. When there is thunder, when you touch your own sunshine, happiness is at your fingertips. As long as everything looks toward the future, there will be hope. But she suddenly thought of something, and her expression became nervous. You said that I am a widower and a widower. Wouldn't that be a threat to Lilei? Opposite the tea seat, the pale man spoke calmly and slowly, you can't beat him. To be precise, your fates are already connected. He pointed at her neck. Xiaoling lowered her head in confusion and touched her neck with her hand. There was an amulet hanging on it. It was dark red and made of sycamore wood. It was simple and simple, just like a street stall in any tourist area. She took it off. What's the problem with this? Lilei didn't tell you, right? Looking at her expression, Xiaomoyan knew that she knew nothing about anything. I made this amulet for him. I drained half of his body's blood and used secret techniques to bless you. From now on, he will help you share the disasters. Half of the disasters God inflicts on you will be transferred to him. Xiaoling was shocked. What did he say? It turns out that this amulet was not bought from a street stall for 50 cents, but was bought by Lilei with half his body's blood. Are they still sharing her misfortune? How could he be so stupid? For a moment, Xiaoling felt mixed emotions in her heart. She couldn't tell whether it was heartache or anger. Is this kind of thing a joke? He doesn't want his life. Maybe he is yours. Wuotongwood, Xiaomoyan said lightly. A phoenix soars above the 9 heavens and cannot rest on a phoenix. Only by meeting the destined person can we overcome many disasters and grow old together. If he is, then your life will be safe. If he is not, Xiaomoyan's voice was as light as a wisp of smoke, if he dies, he will die. What do you mean if you die? Xiaoling glared at him. I don't want Lilei to die. Since you made this amulet, you must have a way to resolve it, right? Quickly resolve it. I don't let Lilei share my misfortune. As she spoke, she thrust the amulet into his hand. The slender hand touched his, and it was cold, as if there was no trace of human vitality. Xiaomoyan looked at her deeply. Do you really want to explain? It's absolutely true. Xiaoling didn't want Lilei to make such a big sacrifice for her. He was the proud man of heaven. How could he be dragged into the quagmire of fate by her? It is enough for her to bear all the disasters alone. The man in white opposite him lowered his eyes and looked at the dark red amulet in his palm. Please, please untie it. She looked at him pleadingly. Xiaomoyan raised his eyes. I want to perform a secret technique. Xiaoling, please stay out of the way. I'll call you later, and you can come in again. Xiaoling nodded hurriedly and avoided going out. Outside the door, she was in a panic. Her cell phone rang, and it was the news from Lilei. Xiaoling, it's snowing, look. Attached is a photo of a vast expanse of snow, as well as him walking with his ermao in the snow, with a big smile on his face. Xiaoling felt a sore nose. This man always reported good things but not bad things. He always left her with a sunny and cheerful side, but he took all the pain on himself. She recalled that at that time, she thought the amulet was ugly, and said bitterly that it was a 50-cent piece of merchandise. However, although he frowned, he didn't say anything. Since he had met Xiaomoyan and asked for this amulet, he must have known that she was lonely and widowed, and he didn't tell her because he was afraid of scaring her. Even if she was so disgusted and insulted, he endured all this and took care of her gently as usual. Xiaoling couldn't imagine that if the thing she had kowtowed from the foot of the mountain and shed half of her body blood to beg was ruined by someone like this, would she have turned against that person on the spot and never had any contact with him? And what about Lilei? How much did he bear on his own without her knowing? She sniffed and texted him back viciously, Lilei, you big bastard. In an instant, his text message caught up, what's wrong, with such a big temper, who bullied you? I'll help you vent your anger. You bullied me. Her tears are about to come out again. Why did I bully you? He was puzzled. The snacks I brought you are not delicious, the photo doesn't look good. Where are you? How about I let you bully me and come back to let you vent your anger? Her tears fell and she turned off her phone. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 349. Chapter 349, 100 Years of Good Cooperation. It seems that since I got to know him, I have become much more fragile. In her previous life, during the year she was imprisoned, she had learned how to hold back her grief and how to prevent tears from falling. But now, all those efforts seemed to be in vain. By Lilay's side, she turned into a crying little girl again, crying over the smallest things. Lilay, you are a big bastard. Big bastard. Big bastard. She cried and read it bitterly. I don't know how long it took, but the door of the tea room box was opened. Xiaomoyan, dressed in white, appeared in front of her. When he saw her red eyes, he didn't show the slightest surprise. He just said quietly, "You can come in." She walked in depressed. Xiaomoyan handed the amulet back to her. Xiaoling looked at the amulet in confusion and felt that it was no different from before. The dark red sycamore wood was still plain and unpretentious, and it looked inconspicuous at all. Wait, no, her fingers seemed to touch something. She turned the amulet over and found 2 lines of ghostly drawings on the back, which looked like oracle bone inscriptions or compiled characters. The writing style was like flowing clouds and flowing water, giving it a strange and mysterious beauty. "What is this?" she asked. "The birth dates of you and Lilay," Xiaomoyan said. "The amulet I gave him in the temple was not a complete version and did not have the birth dates engraved on it. Because your birth date is too special, it is not Yezingling's resume. With the date written on it, I'm worried that Lilay will become suspicious after investigating. Written, painted like this, he can't recognize it." Xiaoling tried hard to identify the ghostly drawing talisman, but failed completely. "It's just a kind of ancient writing." Xiaomoyan's eyes were filled with smiles for the 3rd time. "He cares about you very much, and he will never put something unknown on you, even if he admits it. If you don't read this kind of text, you can find it if you are willing to look for it. By then, the secret of your nirvana and rebirth may be revealed. He doesn't know that I'm reborn from nirvana. You just tell him that I'm lonely and widowed, right?" Xiaomoyan nodded. Xiaoling turned the amulet over and asked, "If you add the birth date, he will no longer be responsible for my disaster?" Xiaomoyan said, "The horoscopes of your birth date make your destinies more closely connected. This amulet could only be used 3 times before it expired, but now it can be used indefinitely." He remembered that since she got this amulet, there had been 2 accidents, so she came all the way from the remote snowy mountains of Switzerland just to complete the amulet before she had the 3rd accident. Xiaoling looked at him with wide eyes. "Did you lie to me?" "What did I lie to you about?" "You said you wanted to help me break off the connection with Lilay. Let him no longer bear my disaster." "Xiaomoyan, now you tell me, the fate is more closely connected. How did the original 3 times become forever? What's going on?" Looking at her angry eyes, Xiaomoyan remained calm. "I didn't promise you. Xiaoling, I just asked you to leave the tea room temporarily, and I didn't promise you anything." Xiaoling was stunned. After thinking about it carefully, it turned out to be true. She begged him to break the bond, and he asked her to go out and wait. That's why she mistakenly thought he had promised something. "You deliberately misled me. I'm very pressed for time." Xiaomoyan put on his white gloves again and went to get his white windbreaker from the hanger. "If not, it might take a lot of words to get you to give me the amulet." "Xiaoling, I can't. To harm you, in fact, that curse wish cannot be solved. As long as he lets go of blood once, even if the amulet fails, it will just not be able to help you prevent disaster. If you die, he will not survive." Xiaoling's hands and feet were cold. Xiaomoyan pushed the door open and went out. Before leaving, he turned around and said, "By the way, I haven't congratulated you yet. Maybe you found your own sycamore tree. I wish you a happy marriage." The door was closed. She fell down on the tatami in the tea room, holding the blood-stained amulet in her hands, trembling slightly. The phone ringtone keeps ringing. She had no intention of checking. The door was pushed open again, and a man appeared in front of her wrapped in the breath of wind and snow. Xiaoling, what's wrong with you? Why are you hiding here without saying a word? Do you know how many calls I've made to you? It was Li Lei. Seeing her safe and sound, he breathed a sigh of relief and looked at her. But fell on the amulet in her hand. What's wrong with the amulet? His voice became tense again and he knelt down next to her. On the piece of sycamore wood amulet, there were a few carvings that looked like paintings but not paintings, like some kind of spell, which made him tremble with fear. Xiaoling was startled and wanted to shrink her hand, but it was already too late. Li Lei grabbed her hand and looked at the amulet. What's on this? Li Lei, you're still asking, she suddenly shouted loudly and couldn't help but shed tears. I saw Xiaomoyan. He told me everything. He said you begged me for this amulet. I kowtowed from the foot of the mountain and lost half of my blood. Li Lei, are you stupid? I want you to take care of me. Her body was trembling, her chest was heaving, and her face looked sad and angry. Li Lei was startled at first. Xiaomoyan? Which Xiaomoyan? He had never heard of this name. However, when he caught a glimpse of the amulet in her hand, he suddenly realized, you mean Xiaoquashi. Did you see the Grand Master? If it's really that man who is as unattainable as the sky and the clouds, God, how could he tell Xiaoling his real name? You know, let alone the Li family, even a great Zen master like Abbot Kongji only knew his surname was Xia. As for his real name, no one could tell, so why did he tell Xiaoling? Xiaoling still yelled at him, if the imperial master hadn't told me the truth, would you have planned to hide it from me for the rest of your life? Knowing that it was the imperial master, Li Lei's originally worried heart was half relieved, and he comforted her with a gentle voice, okay, it's not a big deal, just wear it like an ordinary amulet. The words of disaster, who knows if it's true? It's not true and you're bleeding, Xiaoling cried again, knowing that he believed it deeply, but she chose to comfort her with these understatement. She punched Li Lei in the chest. You bastard. Okay, I'm a bastard. Li Lei hates seeing girls cry the most, especially when the girl he loves cries so much in front of him. He hugged her and coaxed her in a soft voice for a long time, vowing to heaven not to do this again. Finally, she was coaxed to hold back her tears and lean into his arms with some weakness. Show me that amulet. Li Lei kissed her forehead tenderly. Has Master Xia changed his mind? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 350. Chapter 350, Birthday and Horoscopes. Xiaoling didn't want to show it to him, fearing that he would guess some clues from the birth date. However, after experiencing so many lives and deaths, she knew how much weight this amulet carried, and suddenly felt that some things might not need to be kept so tightly hidden from him. She let go of her hand and let him take the amulet. He looked down at the newly carved marks on it. It's our birth date above. Xiaoling was afraid that he would go to the trouble of checking it out as Xiaomoyan said, so she simply told him directly, my birth date is different from what's written on the certificate. Li Lei raised his eyebrows slightly. He had long suspected her resume, but he never had a chance to confirm it. Now, hearing her mention this matter from her own mouth, he couldn't help but ask cautiously, what's going on? Xiaoling lowered her head and looked at the intertwined fingers of the two people. Xiaoling, he intuitively felt that the truth was right in front of him, and his voice became gentler, it's okay, no matter what happens, I will always be on your side. That's because you don't know how twists and turns the truth is. Xiaoling's voice was also low, and she put her other hand on their joined hands. Li Lei, I don't know how to tell you, there are some secrets about my life experience, and I am not as ordinary as Xingling seems to be. She paused for a long time before continuing, but, believe me, I have no ill intentions towards you. There are some things I don't know how to say. Li Lei, I don't want to just make up a lie to deceive you. Maybe, when I have more courage in the future, I will slowly tell you about the past events, but today, I can only tell you that my birth date is the one engraved on the amulet, not on Yesingling's ID photo. Date. Lilei stroked her long hair up and down, as if deep in thought. She raised her head uneasily. He looked into her eyes for a long time, then smiled. Well, I'll wait. There is indeed something wrong with her life experience. He is very curious about what kind of person and what kind of methods can make it possible for even Lilei to find no clues. Reminiscent of the elusive National Preceptor, the National Preceptor abnormally told Xiaoling his real name. Is it also related to her life experience? If it involves metaphysics, it makes sense. In this field, it is easy for the master to avoid everyone's pursuit. Lilei thought to himself, but on the surface he looked as if nothing had happened. He lowered his head and kissed the top of her hair. His kiss made her originally turbulent heart strangely calm. She gently picked up his clothes with her hands, turned sideways in his arms, and changed into a more comfortable position. Tired? He asked softly, holding her more firmly. She responded vaguely. She experienced a lot today, first her conversation with Rongping, then her acquaintance with her biological brother, knowing the secret about her life experience, and also discovering the price Lilei had paid for her. Emotions have been ups and downs, and now when people relax, they feel as tired as a mountain. Look at you, you're crying like a tabby cat. Lilei laughed at her, reaching out to gently wipe away the tears from the corners of her eyes. What do you want for dinner? I won't eat. She turned her face awkwardly and ignored him. She got angry whenever she mentioned crying. If she hadn't known that he had secretly bled half of his body to share her misfortune, would she have cried? He had the nerve to laugh at her. Lilei reached out and pinched her face. You really don't want to eat? Disgusting. Her cheeks were pinched and her words were slurred. There is nothing to hate. Her smooth and white face felt good to the touch. Lilei got addicted to pinching it and pinched her nose again. Come on, be happy and give me a smile. She was like a off cat. The little kitten opened its mouth to bite his finger, and it bit it right away, holding it in its mouth and rubbing it. You are a cat. Lilei used his other hand to pinch her face. Open your mouth and be good. Press, don't open your mouth. Don't blame me for being rude if you don't open up. Ha ha ha, you're welcome to show it to me. You're so welcome. This time, Xiaoling didn't bother to pay attention to him, biting his finger and applying a little more force. Ouch, it really hurts. Boss Li bared his teeth and decided to teach this biting little guy a lesson. He put his free hand to his mouth and let out a sigh, then immediately went to tickle Xiaoling. Ah, Xiaoling was caught off guard and released his fingers in a hurry. She screamed and laughed at the same time. She curled up into a ball and dodged the boss's attack. Lilei. Don't make trouble. Ha 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 ha. She was out of breath. The boss refused to let her go. I told you not to let go, I told you not to let go. As soon as the bitten hand was freed, he became more energetic, and used both hands to fight, catching her and killing her. Scratch. He struck fast and hard, scratching her until she was sore. She laughed and screamed, panting. Her body rolled down on the tatami, and her hair was messy. Lilei, don't. Ha 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 ha, it's tickling me to death. She didn't know that her body was so ticklish in her life. She was unable to resist being tickled by the boss, and she laughed so much that tears came out. You know you're wrong, get out of the way. Ha 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 ha. In a panic, she kicked him with her hands and feet, and her little feet touched his waist. If you scratch him again, I'll fight back. The boss just ignored her and said, counterattack. With your small body, he smiled evilly, pressing down on her with his hands. Tell me. Are you going to counterattack? I'm going to counterattack, it's so itchy, ha 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 ha. Master boss continued to scratch. Lilei, You bastard. Ha 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 ha, it tickles me to death, bastard ha 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 ha. Sir, keep up the good work. Lile, stop it. Stop scratching. Ha 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 ha. No more. The best way is not to be scratched to death by the boss, and to keep the Green Hills alive without fear of running out of firewood. Are you really not going to counterattack? No. You know you're wrong. I know, ha ha, woohoo, ha ha ha. Xia Xiaoling was incoherent. Master Boss then compassionately stopped and leaned down to look at her. End of this chapter.